People go, well, did you get a sale from it? No.
We've been doing this now for, 50 some odd episodes. So we're over a year. And
is that right?
Yeah,
wow.
we're closer to 60 than we are to 50, which is awesome. We're actually warming up. Like these are getting really good. I love that we're allowing ourselves to kind of throw shade as well as give really big compliments to big advertisers who are doing amazing things and the brave brands that are allowing it to happen. People don't really know who we are. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put Steve on the hot seat and interview style and start asking you a bunch of questions so we can get to know who the heck you are. Steve's weird and I'm going to find out some weird stuff. So Steve, my man, you are a Wizard of Ads partner. You are a marketer. You are a finance guy. You've worn many hats. So what I'd love to know is, when did you get started in marketing specifically?
I was not able to follow the path I wanted to follow in university. I couldn't get into the school I wanted to get into. I was not a good student in high school. And basically, so what my strategy was, I would go and do a year of business school, get my act together, get good marks, go do the thing I wanted to do. And at the time, my dad was like, yeah, do that. Because you know what? A year of business school never hurt anyone. So I did a year of business school, loved it. And what I found I really loved was two things. I really loved marketing and I really loved finance. So I graduated with a double major.
Okay.
Finance and marketing. Weird combo.
Very weird combo.
And finance is also very different than accounting. So it was really an accidental discovery because what I was like, this is really interesting because marketing's got all the psychology and the science and the arts and this and that and this creativity and all this other crazy stuff, and it really impacts businesses and blah, blah, blah. It was, I'm going to do this for a year.
So accidentally fell upon marketing, which is interesting. Two, the second question I had is that I do remember stories that you've told me in the past about you running your own DJ business throughout your university time out in Halifax. And I'm in Halifax, so when you were here.
So a guy who I had met in high school, because I did my last year of high school in Halifax. I grew up in Ontario, but did my last year actually in Dartmouth and a guy who I met in high school had started this little DJ business. And myself and another person who I was friends with, three of us decided to become partners and just do this thing because it was like, hey, you know what? And literally my attitude was, sounds like fun and I can make some money and I can meet girls. Perfect. Let's do this thing.
There's always a motivation. Let's
do this thing. It grew and it grew and it grew. And by the time I was graduating university, we had, I think it was 35 employees and we were doing $1.4 million, $1.5 million.
That's it's not a bad little side hustle
in sales. Like it was a thing.
You finished university, blah, blah, blah. And then I know you had a nice corner office, in the TD Bank Tower in downtown Toronto in finance. Talk to me a little bit, as much as you want, but a little bit about what that part of your life is like.
Yeah, well, it was in the gold RBC Tower.
Tower, that's what it was.
Yeah. When I sold out to the DJ business, I then went and I worked for a life insurance company. I was an analyst for a life insurance company, basically managing a real estate portfolio for them, or at least advising on the management of it. Then went into the stock side of the business with RBC, and I did eventually. The reason why TD is I did eventually end my career with TD.
Oh yeah,
so. Yeah, but became a portfolio manager and all that stuff.
Crap! How did you become a marketer, man? Like seriously?
Well, but here's the interesting thing. So if you went to my office, what was really interesting is I was a portfolio manager and I did not have a quote screen sitting on my desk. I didn't manage money. So I had actually and my ex-wife, who she mathematically brilliant, conceptually. So think about this. This was back in the days where you would have done this with a spreadsheet. We're talking, this is like the 90s. I'd read some things from some people who are doing this, a new emerging style called quantitative management, which runs things off of number trends.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and market trends. And so I dreamt up this idea that we could create this mathematical model that would manage money.
Okay.
Now, the scrubbing of data we had to do was insane. But we basically built a mathematical model that ran investments. Now, I kind of came up with the concept and got it to a certain degree, and then it was Carrie, who, with her brilliance, was able to actually make it work. And then what I went out and did was marketed that model.
Okay.
Was sell people on the concept, because think about the concept at the time. We're going to have a computer kick out the results. Like that was like, I shouldn't say no one, very few people were doing that. And certainly the people who were doing it had way more mathematical power than we had. We were doing it on an Excel. Well, actually, when we were doing it on an Excel spreadsheet, you would have to go back to like a really early database. If I could remember the name of it, the tech geeks out there would be like, you did that on that database? Yeah, like one of the really freaking early data, like Microsoft databases. I can't even, like Microsoft's first database is what we built it on.
Oh my God. Okay. Now you guys understand what I have to deal with like on a regular basis with Steve, because he is that, like he is very analytical. He is very precise. He knows exactly how to get to the information that needs to get done. And he's not really a creative. And I'm saying that with love and respect, because what he does is he sees patterns and he sees what's happening in markets. And if you jump over to the Empire Builders podcast and you listen to him, he does business topology like nobody's business. It's crazy to have this like brain power wrapped up into somebody who goes, oh, but this would be funny. Hey, Matt, can you write something for this? And I go like, why? Right? Like that fights against all my creative juices, but he's brilliant because it's a pattern interrupter. It's something. So listen, when we know everything's connected, your path does make sense by the time we get to the Wizard of Ads. How did they figure you out? Because you didn't come in like everybody else on the Wizard of Ads.
No, I didn't. And that became really evident in my first partner meeting, because my first partner meeting, we were sitting in a circle and, the microphone was being handed around and people were talking a little bit about, and most conversation would start off with saying, I've known Roy and Penny for like 20 years and I worked in radio and blah, 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 blah. And I had never been in a radio station and I did not know Roy beyond Roy being an instructor.
Correct.
So I after leaving finance, I then went and I was doing business development for mid-sized companies. I'm a firm believer, and this is another frustration I have with many professionals, whether it's sales, whatever, they do not do enough working on their craft. And when you work on your craft, you're reading books, you're attending courses, you're seeking out the wisdom of experts.
Correct.
And I've always believed in that, and I do courses every year. So at one point, I'd read Roy Williams' books. I'd read the trilogy. I followed him on his Monday Morning Memo. As we know, Roy's founder of the Wizard of Ads. And at a certain point, I went, you know what? I should do a course at the Academy. And then went and did another course, and then went and did another course. And then at a certain point, I get an email from Roy's assistant, and that's another whole thing in terms of how I became a partner. But it was something Roy picked out in what I was creating. And then the other thing I did, like I literally would send to him, here's a campaign I ran, here's a result I got from the ideas from the class.
You started showing off your work as he had
Well, and it was just what I know from having done instructing on things. Like, you're a baseball coach. You know it.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden a kid that you taught went on and all of a sudden batted 400, you'd want to hear about, hey, Matt, that thing with the swing? Like, look at somebody caught it on YouTube. Here's a bases loaded home run, bang.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be, oh my God, that kid's bragging. You'd be like, you want to hear the successes.
Correct.
And that was the way I did it. It was just like, when you taught this, I applied the idea to this, here's the result. It was awesome.
So now you're a Wizard of Ads partner. You're now having to get into this world where you came from direct response marketing. Roy's much more on the branding side of things. Both things work. You still straddle the line for a lot of times. You love the branding side, but you're probably, easily the best person at the direct marketing side of it. Tell me how that's a struggle or not.
I believe a lot of direct response marketers have co-opted and misunderstand what the purpose of direct response is. So in other words, what they feel is direct response is you send something out and you get a sale.
Right.
It's not direct sale marketing. It's direct response marketing.
Right.
And I think I learned that intuitively as a portfolio manager. Like my minimum investment account, and we're talking like 30 years ago, was $250,000, $250,000 minimum.
Right.
That's the starting point.
Right.
No one's going to hand me $250,000 based upon one piece of mail that they get. I need to develop a relationship. Well, how do you develop a relationship? Well, you talk together, you go and you have coffee, you go out for a movie because the movie's safe. You don't have to talk to each other. And then you go for dinner, and that, like, right, there's this natural progression that happened.
Yeah.
And intuitively, I understood that. But what's the response? Send me more information. That's a response.
Yes.
In the path.
Yes.
Right? The response can even be like, I did weird ones where it just stimulated people wanting to talk to you because of their shared passion about a car or whatever the hell it happened to be. That's a response. And people go, well, did you get a sale from it? No. The average amount of times you need to talk to somebody is 12 times before you get a sale. So I go, okay, how do I get this person to talk to me 12 times before we meet? And then all of that background crap is done, and I can go immediately to I can present a proposal in the first meeting and close it because we've already done the dating.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's direct response. It's direct response, but with a branding thing to it because it is a bonding campaign. But what you're doing is you are trying to create responses. If this interests you, give me a call. If you think I'm full of crap, email me. So that basically now what you're having interactions with the customer. So you can have that, like if you're selling something really complex, you can have those series of interactions with the person. So that was the style that I brought, which is the reason why when I got exposed to Roy's branding, I went, oh, I can totally use that in this direct response approach.
Now we know more about your path, how you got through to marketing and into the Wizard of Ads, and now, you know, you're in the middle of this. There's got to be a campaign or a thing that happened, a spark that you were like, oh my, like something you're just super duper proud of that you've come up with.
Recency always ends up becoming the thing, because like for me, it's like, because later as I think back on it, there'll be a different one that's a favorite. So for me to answer that, it's the one that's in front of me right now.
Done. Let's go.
So one of the things I really love that we're working on right now is the stuff we're doing for Maven Roofing. So what I really like with Maven is they, as you and I know, they install their roofs differently. They do this whole thing with tape that no one else does. Yeah. And of course, they really struggle with trying to explain that complex idea and how they're different, because it also makes the roof way more expensive.
Correct.
But works way better. It's a complicated thing to explain. So what I love is how we have figured out how to personify the tape in their marketing.
In their process, yeah.
Their messaging was all over the place. They were military, and they were this, and they were that, and they were the other thing. But what we realized initially is the thing that pulled all of these complex ideas together was no quit. Well, it was a little tiny thing.
And it was a part of 5 other things that all meant no quit.
That all meant no quit.
Yeah.
Leave no man behind, no quit. And then also what happens when the roof quits? It leaks. So your roof is going to be no quit. So we had this idea of the no quit roof. And then we've now leaned into the no quit tape. And what I really love is we then have also figured out how to bring that tape now into the sales process, where the salesperson sets the tape on the table, audible sound on the table when they're talking about the tape.
Yeah.
And so I to me, it's maybe not the most exciting or the most creative campaign, but the challenge on this one, because there were so many different things and it's a brand new idea and it's hard to explain, the ability of the team to come together to simplify that into a simple, concrete story that we can easily tell people that they immediately get. And we've got and you've written phrases like asphalt is just window dressing, and people are phoning in talking about that. Okay,
well, Steve, thank you for letting me kind of just talk about you. And listen, this is but I want people to understand like the roadmap of how you got here, because that is your story and it is what allows you to do what you're doing. And so thank you. I appreciate it. Let's just see you guys on the next episode, where apparently I'm going to be on the hot seat, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, guys, see you in the next one.